Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is David Grabiner. Thanks for being on the show, David.
Thank you, Whitney. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, you have an amazing background there that I'm looking forward to sharing with the listeners today. A unique one, that's for sure. Almost 1,000 shows. I don't think I've heard of it or any other bio like yours. But David is an innovative real estate investor. He posts practical advice on social media and has helped many investors improve their real estate portfolios, beginning while living in the Congo with $12,500 in a single quadplex in 2014. His Chattanooga real estate portfolio is now valued at over $26 million with over 170 units and several large commercial properties, which he self-manages. David worked with the World Food Program in Zambia and managed a thriving hospital in the Congo. The skills learned in those settings enable him to bring a fresh perspective to changing economic times. David currently lives in Tennessee with his wife and their 4 children. David, welcome to the show. Such a unique background. Give us some details though around investing from the Congo. Why you started investing in the States while in the Congo. Maybe how you got to the Congo. And some of that.
Okay, so I grew up as a missionary kid in Africa. I am from the States, but when I was 10, I moved over there. And then I came back to college and I graduated 2007. It wasn't really a great job market time. I went and got my master's and I was still like kind of just, what are we doing? And my wife, who I met in Kenya, actually went to high school together. Her parents started a hospital in the Congo. And they said, hey, can you come over and help us run it? She's a nurse, and I had my MBA in healthcare management. So we said, okay, let's go on over there. And then we were over there and we were working, and I just got this bug of like, hey, I want to be able to work wherever I want in the world and have financial independence and be just financially free. It doesn't matter what the salary is going to be. So I said, okay, how am I going to do that? And I started researching, and real estate just seemed to be the way to do it.
Nice. So it came from a desire to be able to work from anywhere in the world. And you try to figure out how can I probably create passive income, right? So I don't have to actually drive to work every day, and have the W-2 grind. You wanted to be able to make your own hours and be remote and creating your own real estate business. Sure, is a great path to doing that. Tell us some of the first few steps to how you did that. I want us to get to your commercial real estate journey as well, but I think it's just an incredible story. From being that far away, you still made it happen investing in the States.
Yeah. So my initial goal was very modest. I just wanted to have like $30,000 a year of passive income. And I figured I could do that in 5 years just by saving up my money, like being aggressive and saving up my money and buying a couple of multifamily properties. Now, I had a couple of obstacles. I was living in the Congo. So how was I going to buy properties in the States? So I talked to my dad and we partnered up. And we both put in, a little bit of money and bought a quadplex, but I would be over there like at night and I would be like searching for more properties. I would be emailing real estate agents and be like, hey, I'm interested in this property. My business partner is going to come take a look at it. All that from over there. And I did that until we got to about 24 units. So I built up to about 24 units when I was in the Congo, just at night, just looking on the MLS. Going straight to listing agents, which was a huge key to my success. I got rid of the buyer's agent pretty quickly and just started going straight to listing agents, which is interesting now that I'm moving into commercial. That's really common. Like it's really common to go straight to the listing agent in commercial. Like you don't always have a buyer's agent, but in the small residential, small multifamily space, that was like really out of the box for a lot of people.
I think that's a pretty... I don't know, it's neat that you brought that up. I think it's very useful advice right there, especially when you're looking at smaller properties. I think most people want that realtor that's representing them, right? It's kind of on their side. But I think it's a great point there. You probably found some deals going straight to that agent or seller's agent. What about any other obstacles? Obviously, you were a few miles away, right?
Right.
Different time zones, all that. But it sounds like your father was here. You partnered with him. And so was that a crucial step? Obviously having someone here that's probably awake during the same time and could go view properties and those things. Are how did that work out? And anything else that helped you to close up to, 24 units while being that far away?
Yeah, so that was definitely key, having a partner that I could trust. And I couldn't even use my income over there to get loans because they couldn't verify any of it. So all the loans in the beginning just went in my father's name. And we had our own little, signed operating agreement, how we were doing everything. But the loans would go in his name. There wasn't even really any record that I owned it. It wasn't on the tax records or anything. But we were just 50-50 partners. And that really enabled me to do it. And then when I got to 24 units, I decided to move back to the States and start doing it full time. And then when I started coming back to the States and doing it full time, like, okay, I'm going to manage it myself. I'm going to use that income to live off of, and I'm going to grow this by being completely plugged in. And I know a lot of people think of going directly to, well, I never want to really be working in the business. I want to be working on the business. And they don't really want to put in that time. But sometimes if you put in that time and effort and grind in the beginning, you can really free yourself from a W-2 job a lot quicker. And I never would have been able to do that if I wasn't just self-managing. And I learned a lot by doing that as well.
So that's an interesting point that I don't know if I've heard many people mention before. It's just like by doing it all yourself initially, maybe that's not your long-term plan, but at least initially, let's cut all expenses possible, do as much as we can, just so we can get to that freedom number as fast as possible. And maybe some would probably say, well, you're not really, it's not freedom yet because you're tied to all those things. However, you are full-time in real estate now, right? You don't still have that W-2. So I would say there's still a lot more freedom there than you've had in the past. So tell us a little bit about your thought process there. Do you plan to do it that way forever? What's your plan, for the future and self-managing or not?
Okay. So initially it was like, okay, I'll just do it for a while, then we'll get a property management company. Then I started seeing how bad property management companies are. I mean, and no offense to property management companies in my area. I'm sure, maybe there's some decent ones, but it's just no one ever is going to care about your expenses and your properties like you do. It's just a fact. I mean, I did hear some other person who was talking on some show and he seemed like really good. Like, oh, I always treat it like it's my own, but no one's really going to care like you do. And so I started growing this and I started seeing I'm being more profitable. It's not only about the 8 or 10% you give up on the top, it's all the expenses as well. And expenses is a huge profit center for management companies. So, I started running things a lot less, a lot lower expense ratios than all these other management companies. Like, okay, I'm more profitable. So if I give that up, okay, that's going to kind of hurt. So now I'm at the point like, okay, now I need to just build my own employees who can follow that on. And it also started to push me to do more commercial because I realized commercial is a lot less management intensive than multifamily. I can manage myself, hundreds of millions of dollars of commercial property just as easily as I manage 170 residential units. It's interesting, the difference. Now, it's still work. You still have to do it, but you can just scale it a lot more with a smaller team. And I am kind of focused on that. Like, I'm building my team, but I still want to keep it small. I'm kind of focused on this efficiency, like how much money you can make off of as few of employees as possible. Like I think of Warren Buffett with Berkshire Hathaway. They have, I think, like 19 or 20 employees, and they're like what, the fourth largest company in the world or something. I mean, they're huge, but they only have like that. Now, obviously, they have subsidiaries that have employees, but their business of finding other businesses is literally just run by like 20 people. It's amazing. And I am kind of obsessed with that kind of model of I want to have businesses that are efficient because employees and personnel are just such a high expense. And
how are you learning that model? Are there, is there books? Is there anything that have helped you to think that way? I think it's very valuable, right? I mean, not only because Warren Buffett does it, but I just mean, it just makes sense, right? I mean, the operating as lean as possible. How did you learn to do that or think that way?
It came So it really just came from how I was doing things. Like I was doing everything myself. So I was putting systems in place and I was seeing how much I could really do myself. It's basically not listening to what other people are saying in a way, because people are saying, oh, you can only manage 50 units and then you need to have another property manager. Like there can only be a property manager for 50, 100 max. But I was managing my own properties. And at one point I was managing for another company properties as well. So I was managing 250 units myself, no one else. Like I'm talking doing accounting, phone calls, everything, 250 units myself. So I can tell you it's possible. I know it's possible to get out of other people because I've done it myself. And obviously I don't want to be killing myself for a long time. And I've pulled back from that. I'm not managing that many. I'm bringing people on the team. But I kind of have that high standards of like, okay, I know we can have a property management software and I use Buildium. And the way I use it, the way I do my accounting is probably different than just a normal bookkeeper does it, but it's way more efficient. Like I only do my accounting for the property one day a month, and I can do all my bookkeeping just one day a month. So I realized, okay, if I can do one day a month, like, so I could have a bookkeeper, and if they were as efficient as me, we could be 30 times as big. Right? But I hear other people are paying for people, they have like 40 units and they're paying $800 a month for their bookkeeping. I said, how is that possible? Like, okay, they're using a different system. And if you're not using the right system, it's easy to think it takes a lot longer time. I mean, I've looked at different software systems, and just recently I was using Yardi because I thought it's better for my commercial properties. But it's so much more cumbersome to use than Buildium. It was taking me 3 times as long. So I'm canceling that. I'm just staying, with Buildium because its system is just that much more intuitive and that much easier to use. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm going that way. I can't point to any books or whatever that I'm necessarily learning off of. It's just
it's just interesting to help us to think that way as well. And even you thinking through when you talked about like the expense side, it's like minimizing expenses, how much profit is made there, not just by property management companies, but if you're managing yourself, how much closer an eye you can have on those things and how much profit you can make by having your eye on those details. No doubt about it. But it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, like you don't plan to manage all these units forever, but you're going to manage them maybe forever, but you're building a team, like really your own management company that's going to operate this. So maybe you're not dedicated to having to do everything forever. Is that correct?
That is correct. I want to be in the place where obviously the most valuable thing that I do is find properties to buy. That's when I make my most money. Everyone who's in this business understands that, like, you make money when you buy the property. So that's my most valuable time. And I enjoy that. I enjoy putting deals together. I enjoy talking to the other investors and getting the money together and, okay, this is the deal, and then operating. But I have such certainty on that because I know that I manage it myself. So I know how that management piece is going to play out. I have seen so many times, even we sold some properties to another company that was professionally managed, and it just goes downhill and they're no longer profitable. So I just know how much of a key part the management is. And, maybe it's just the control freak in me, but it's hard for me to go to investors and say, yes, it's going to turn out like this when I'm leaving some other part to someone else that's so crucial and I don't really know how they're going to do. Now, if I found a good company and, I had trust in them, that's different. I can say, okay, they always perform like this. I can trust them. But I haven't yet found that. So yes, I'm trying to build up my own team of employees, other people who are helping me, and I will just be on the higher level, in the next year or so. I'm building towards it. I'm not yet to that plateau of, I'm hands off.
Well, tell me some of the steps you're taking to getting towards like syndicating commercial retail. I know we briefly talked about that before we started recording. Like your goal is, syndicating commercial retail now. Why that asset class, and what are some steps you're taking now and moving in that direction?
Okay, so I like multifamily, but I know for multifamily, if I'm managing it, it's very intensive. So I only buy in my area, which is Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's a small market, great market for multifamily, but not very many deals are happening, especially right now. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to grow, I need to expand out. And what can I do? Okay, commercial retail, I can do anywhere. I just chose the Southeast because it's, I can drive to it or fly to it pretty quickly. And I don't have to be going to those places. I can manage those from afar. So if it's a, $6 million grocery anchored retail center, I can manage that from afar. I have all the other team players in place, the landscaping, all the vendors, and I can do everything from my phone. And it really doesn't take that much to manage a $6 million. Really, it's just as easy managing a $6 million shopping center as it is a quadplex.
Right.
It just is. It's just a difference in numbers of money amount. But other than that, the ease is there. So that's why I decided to go that way. In addition to when the pandemic hit, multifamily, it went for a pause, right? We saw the pause when the pandemic hit. And then the prices went up for multifamily. Like cap rates started coming down. They started compressing. But in commercial retail, and I've only been able to get a couple of properties, so maybe I've missed the boat on it because it's kind of creeping back up. But there was an opposite effect in commercial retail because commercial retail is normally financed with life insurance companies and CMBS, commercial mortgage-backed securities. So those types of two lenders, they normally lend on that commercial retail stuff, 5 million and plus. And they kind of put a freeze on it during the pandemic. They're like, okay, we don't know what's going to happen. We're not really lending on it. So there wasn't as much financing in that world. So it was harder for buyers to buy how they're used to buying. And so it was then harder for sellers to sell. So cap rates actually went up even in great markets like Nashville, everything like that. Cap rates on good grocery anchored commercial retail went up. So I saw that as an opportunity to get something that, is in great markets, good properties. It's just a COVID reason now that the prices are better. I'm getting it for a discount, and we'll see how long those discounts last.
No, that's awesome. It's great. I mean, you see some, I think, a unique ability that you have, or your desire to manage and your desire to manage well. You see that and being able to scale that in, say, commercial retail faster than, say, multifamily, and really accomplishing that same goal of being very hands-on, managing the best possible, as saying, growing your team while growing your commercial real estate faster, than say if you were doing multifamily. I think that's it's interesting. What about what are some specific things, say, you do on the management side that you noticed that all these other companies weren't doing? When you were looking through that, when you decided, or maybe a couple of the critical things that really just made David say, what, these companies, like, I can just do it so much better than they're doing it.
So obviously keeping expenses down, that's one. And I did a lot of that by being hands-on. Like, you get a call from a tenant, oh, my toilet's not working. Well, you don't call a plumber, you go see, oh, it's just a flapper, right? It's like a simple fix. So there's a lot of things that can be simple fixes. And even when I stopped doing it hands-on, I just had a maintenance guy going around doing the simple stuff. And it's like finding those people who can just do the simple stuff, and I'm not paying $90 an hour for a plumber. And if it's a property management company, whatever, it's a plumbing issue, to call the plumber. And what do they care? They're just going to put another 15% on top and charge it back to the owner. So obviously there's this expense side. But the other side is leasing. So much money is lost in the time it takes to turn places and getting the right tenants in there and finding the right tenants. It's really, especially now with multifamily, it's really not hard to find tenants. You don't need to spend any money on it. There's Facebook Marketplace is free and stuff like that. But being that I'm involved in it, I'm very good at finding creative solutions to turn apartments and stuff without cost or for lower cost. Just depending on the situation. I'll give you a great example. I have a tenant right now in one of my houses. They said they're moving out. But they said, oh, I know this other friend who might be interested. Sure, give me a call. I talk to that friend. I arrange it. That one person is moving out on the 31st of May. The other tenant is moving in the 1st of June. The agreement is I'm doing no turn costs. And this is a huge house. It's like 3,500 square foot house or 3,200 square foot house. I mean, it's a big house, but I'm doing, and if imagine you got to go in there and clean and paint and da da da. The agreement is I'm doing no turn cost. They've seen it, they're friends, and he's just going to take it as is, just like that. And I do a lot of those. I call them zero turns, where I turn places for zero cost. And sometimes it's like they take it even dirty and they'll just clean it themselves in exchange for a reduced security deposit. Like, hey, so the security deposit is normally $800. If I know this person's moving out, you want to move in really quick. Instead of paying $800 security deposit, just pay $400 and you can move in right away. And they're like, yes, they'll take it. So you can't really do that necessarily when you're a property management company, because you kind of have to have everything done the same way in a sense. But when you're managing yourself, you can just be creative and you can come up with all sorts of solutions to, okay, am I at the place where I need to maximize rent? Okay, I got to go in there and do a great turn and get as much rent as possible. Or I'm at the point where, hey, I have too many vacancies. I need to just maximize getting them filled right away. So you can just do that balance. And I can transition that now. I can see I'm transitioning my creativity into commercial retail, which might not seem like it would fit, but leasing is leasing. Even when I'm talking with large credit tenants now and coming up with solutions. Like, say, for example, COVID happened. One of our tenants is Planet Fitness, and they asked for 2 months not paying rent. And they paid $20,000 a month in rent, so it was a big hit. And so we went to the bank and said, "Hey, can we get deferment on our loan?" This was the beginning of COVID, and we didn't know what was going to happen, but it all worked fine. Then they came back and said, "Okay, we want to pay back the 2 months, but we want to spread it over a year." And we said, "Okay, we'll let you do that, but we want you to extend your lease, sign your renewal now for another 10 years." So we took that negative of missing out rent and turned it into a positive that we got them to sign the renewal early and got 10 years on the lease, which is huge in commercial real estate.
Very nice.
And then now I'm working with other credit and just negotiations and like trying to move one tenant into another place. A lot of people, if you're just giving it to a broker, and I work with brokers, but if you're just giving it to it and it's like, okay, they'll take care of it, then you're not going to be able to add that creativity of creating solutions for people. And that's basically the name of the game, is creating solutions.
Love that. Creating solutions. I love the example too for Planet Fitness there and getting your next lease signed, and I mean, that was brilliant to bring that up, but it also got me thinking, what's their slogan? Like $10 a month, I think $20,000 a month rent. That's a lot of people, right? That has to be signed up.
That location has 7,000 people.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So at that location, it's one of their better locations. In fact, we also just recently with that location helped them by moving their payment date. And it wasn't because of our location. Our location was doing great, but they have so many locations across the country and some that were closed. They're like, "Hey, could you move our payment date? It would really help us with cash flow." I was like, "Okay, fine. We'll help you. We'll move your payment date. It's before our loan payment date still. So we're still good."
Nice. Yeah, no, that's incredible. David, thinking about properties like that, you're one with Planet Fitness or other, retail, commercial retail like that. How do you prepare for a downturn?
Yeah, so I'm looking for properties that are, right now, the catchphrase is internet resistant properties, because everyone is scared of not necessarily an economic downturn, but what Amazon is doing to retail. So I'm looking for properties that will do good even during COVID, even during a downturn. So a gym is a good place. The low cost gyms like a Planet Fitness and a Gold's and stuff like that. Like, that's good. I like it. They did pretty good. Pharmacies. One of my units has a CVS pharmacy. That's also fast food. I like the little fast food things inside the commercial center. Those normally do good, even during COVID. Everything like that. People are still going to Pizza Hut and Subway, and they tend to be around. And grocery stores. So my big push is grocery anchored retail, because if you have a good grocery store, one of mine is a Kroger. I'm looking at another one that's an Aldi. But if you have something like that, where people are just going and buying their groceries, if it's one of the good ones, you don't want to be, there's some others that are not as good. But I prefer like a Kroger, Publix, Aldi. Those I know in our southern area are great brands. They're doing really well. They're well managed and they're low cost. So,
do you have any predictions for the real estate market over the next 6 to 12 months?
Man, that is so hard. I was listening yesterday. I had a long drive to go look at a commercial property that I ended up passing on. Felt like I wasted a whole day, but I spent a lot of time listening to podcasts yesterday. And I was like, man, all these smart people are out there saying that, oh, there's no way for it to have a downturn. Like there's just so much free money. Everyone needs a place to stay. There's so little supply, so high demand. Like all the fundamentals point like there's not going to be a downturn. But I know that we have market cycles. I know a downturn has to come. But all these other people who are probably smarter than me are like, well, there's no way for it to happen right now. I really don't know. Like a part of me is thinking that, we have to have a correction, especially with these cap rates going lower and lower in multifamily. It just doesn't seem sustainable. But then again, there's supply and demand. So I don't know is the answer.
No, it is interesting to think about what all these other experts are saying, and I ask almost all operators, on the show that question. And as the listeners know, it's from one end to the other. It's like, oh no, it's all roses, and then others say, no, it's definitely going to happen. No doubt about it. So you definitely have to do your research and think about being prepared for the downturn, even if you think it's not going to happen.
So COVID hit, right? And I realized something, that we need to be prepared. And by prepared, I mean having access to capital, whether that means cash, whether that means lines of credit, whatever it is, they have to have access to capital at all times to weather the storms. Like that's what you need. It doesn't matter if you have a paid off property. If you don't have access to capital, it's not going to help you. So it's paid off and no one's paying the rent. And you need to fix stuff and you have taxes and insurance and you can't meet any of that. Doesn't matter. Even worse is if you have a property that's 90% paid off, right? Like that's the worst case scenario, because then the bank can take it for that 10% because you didn't have access to capital. So going forward, I am still making sure okay, I always have access to capital. And that's more why I'm focusing also I just closed on a $6 million building a couple of days ago. And that one I did with my own money. But most stuff, I like the idea of bringing in other investors so that I can keep my money and my access to capital as just in case. And then I share the return with them and they get a good return and I get a good return, but I don't have to have the whole pie, because if something happens, I want to make sure that I have access to my own stuff to take care of it.
Nice. Oh, what about a couple of daily habits that you have, David, that have helped you achieve success?
I'm not a very good daily habit person. I'm the wrong person to ask. I see all those memes like, oh, every millionaire does this and that. And I'm like, no. I mean, I wake up late when I want to. Sometimes I sleep into 8:30, 9 o'clock. I should exercise all the time. I don't. Sorry. I'm not a good daily habit person.
Okay. That's probably encouraging to a lot of listeners, right? They're feeling a little less pressure.
It's so funny. I thought when I was young, I'd like to sleep in and everything like that. Okay, when I get older, I'm going to be those people that wake up in the morning and get stuff done. But I'm just not that person. I mean, I might work on something until midnight, or I might not, or whatever. I'll work. My mind is always going. So whenever I'm awake, I'm working on stuff. But yeah, I'll sleep in.
What's your best source for meeting new investors?
So I love networking, especially in person. I recommend everyone as it's coming back, go to a local meetup, go meet some people in person, talk to everybody in that room. But also I have been connecting with a lot of people on Instagram. My Instagram is @DIY_landlord. So it's been a great place to network and find people who join me in deals and just learn from each other there.
What's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
I think the number one thing is my determination. I'm a very determined person when I want to get something. And I don't care, how much time or effort I put into it. And I think a lot of people think they want something, but they're not determined enough to get it. And in the end, I mean, there was one property I chased for 2 years. We ended up having to put $1.1 million in cash in escrow before the seller would even sign a purchase and sales agreement. And then he still refused to sign, and I still got that property. So like, if I wanted it, I'm very determined to get it.
And how do you like to give back?
So I like giving back to different charities, especially my wife does a lot of that. And I love that. She's always like, okay, if you're going to make more, I'm going to give more away. And I'm like, that's great. Just keep giving it away. But I also have started this program called Homeless to Homeowner, where I'm buying single family homes, putting homeless renters in them. And then through the Section 8 program, they are renting first, but then they have the option to go through the Section 8 program that teaches them how to get their finances in order so they can buy. And then I hope to be able to sell those homes back to them. So my goal is to get 10 of those homes this year. I only have 2. I really hate that the market has been heating up so much. It's making it harder to find homes that work, because I'm not just doing it solely as like a nonprofit. I want it to be profitable enough that other people can also, take that same concept to their town. I think things need to make a little bit of money in order to be sustainable. So I'm trying to do it on the sustainable model. So right now I got 2 homes that are great. Got 2 great single mothers in there who were homeless for a couple of years. And now are hopefully on their way to becoming homeowners. I have faith in them, but I need to get 8 more by the end of the year. Nice.
Well, David, I appreciate you giving back in that way. It's an interesting model. I think a lot of the listeners and myself can learn from that. But just thanks for sharing your story, investing from the Congo. I mean, it's just incredible. $12,500 and made it happen. And I just think that really just calls a bluff on about anybody in the States that says, oh, it's just too much work, right? Or I just can't get it done. You were, like I said, a long ways away, different time zones. You still made it happen. Congratulations to you, by the way, just of sticking in there and making it happen even from that far. You got to 24 units that way. And now, look at your portfolio, commercial portfolio and what you've accomplished. So just amazing story, just for all of us to learn from. Thank you again. Tell the listeners again how they can get in touch with you and learn how and more about you.
Yeah, so they can follow me on Instagram at DIY_landlord and connect with me there, or at my website, which is Lubono. That's LUBONO capital.com. LubonoCapital.com. Either of those 2 ways is a great way to contact me.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.